Hey artists, so if you would like to add highlights and lowlights when observing your self-portrait, there's a few things the computer can help you do. So here I have my photo from my pretest that I'm using to reference when I'm drawing. And the first thing I would recommend if you're looking for highlights and lowlights is to duplicate this whole entire slide. So I right click and I'm going to choose duplicate slide. So now I have two. I can leave my colored one here. On the second one, I can go ahead. When I click on it, my format options already popped up. Let me show you how to get to that. Right click and choose format options. Now, underneath your recoloring menu, you have a lot of options. If you look at the preview, you can see that many of them have no color. This is going to help you see the highlights and the lowlights better. So I strongly suggest grayscale at the bottom. It's simply converting all the colored information to either black or white or some kind of shade of gray in between. Okay, so choose grayscale at the bottom. Then in adjustments, you can adjust the brightness and the contrast, and these are very important to help you see shadows and highlights clearly. For me, since my photo was taken in kind of a dark room, I can lighten up the brightness, but what I definitely want you to do is increase the contrast. What is hard for people to see is contrasting areas of darks and lights. And if you increase that, I was about at adding 20%, but everybody's picture will be different depending on their lighting circumstances or the colors that were originally there as well. This is going to help me really clearly see the darks and the lights within my photograph so that I can circle the highlights and the lowlights on my drawing of myself. If I close this, let me zoom in a bit to make it easier for you to see things. I can go ahead and now really easily identify the spaces where there are shadows, the lowlights, and highlights, the brighter white areas on my face. If I go ahead and grab my scribble tool, I can demonstrate for you that I have very strong shadows up along the side of my nose here. Let me change that to red so it's easy for you to see. I have a highlight across the front of my forehead. This is very common along the bridge of your forehead between your eyebrows. I have areas that I can clearly see on this side of my nose and sort of up into my eye space that are dark. So another shadow. Let me code those shadows the same way in the same color so that you can see them better. So they'll be in blue, for example, whereas my highlights will be in red, we'll say. So then I can also notice on my chin here, I have this shadow. So I said that was going to be blue. And I can keep going like this. I have a shadow happening along the side of my face. And I also have shadows happening along this side and along my hairline. Not every space is considered a shadow or a highlight. There are mid-tones on your face as well, medium grays. But you tend to have shadows along the edges of your face, edges of your nose, and around your eye sockets. You tend to have highlights between your eyebrows here. Sometimes across the top of your cheekbones can be very bright highlight spaces depending on what kind of lighting you have. And you can also sometimes have highlights on your chin, kind of contrasting with that space that I already circled that was dark underneath there. You don't need to focus on the whites of your eyes or the white of your teeth as a highlight. Those are simply objects that are white. They're not objects that are catching the light. So hopefully that has helped you to identify the highlights and the lowlights I can't believe I forgot one of the most obvious, if anybody's familiar with makeup. Definitely notice that you have a highlight here right underneath your eyebrow and above your eye. So that's another very common highlight that I almost left out, and on the other eye as well. So that should help you identifying those highlights and those lowlights when you're looking for them on your self-portrait.